Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you've been feeling a little lost in the weeds with all the recent tech shifts, today we are going to turn your AI confusion into AI confidence. We're tearing down the meteoric rise of CoreWeave. Because here's the thing, they aren't just participating in the AI infrastructure boom, they've practically become its central pillar.
To find the modern investor essence here, we're going to navigate through a really structured teardown. We'll cover the essential AI cloud, get inside the business model, unpack their financials, margins, and ratios, look at their mega backlog and future growth, and finally wrap up with that core investor takeaway.
All right, Section 1, the essential AI cloud. We really have to talk about how CoreWeave pivoted from a scrappy Ethereum mining operation back in 2017 to the $23 billion powerhouse it is today. CoreWeave is built for one very specific, very critical scenario. It's for when raw computing power is literally your absolute bottleneck. That laser focus makes them the ultimate AI hyperscaler. You know, legacy clouds out there, they offer hundreds of unrelated services. It's bloated. CoreWeave totally bypasses that general-purpose bloat. They're relentlessly focused on high-performance compute and GPU-accelerated workloads, positioning themselves as the essential cloud for AI. And the way they actually deliver this is through something called GPU as a service, or GPU AAS. Think of it like a rental model for massive, specialized computing power. They offer prioritized, on-demand access to the absolute latest NVIDIA hardware. So customers only pay for the intense computational power they actually use, right when they need it. A developer can scale from just a single GPU up to a cluster of 20,000 in a matter of minutes. It is a total game changer. Moving on to Section 2. Inside the business model. Now, what's really fascinating about their growth engine is how they achieve such incredible efficiency. I mean, buying a bunch of chips is one thing, but building the perfect environment to run them flawlessly, that's the real magic. They pull this off through a true hardware-first edge. By providing bare metal access and completely stripping away that standard cloud hypervisor overhead, CoreWeave can deliver up to 35 times faster machine learning performance compared to generalist clouds. 35 times! Add in their Kubernetes native orchestration and an absolutely unrivaled supply chain relationship with NVIDIA, and they have a massive head start in getting the newest silicon online first.
And guys, here is where the numbers get absolutely staggering. This specialized, purpose-built infrastructure approach commands an overall gross margin of roughly 85%. Let that sink in for a second. 85%. By stripping away all the generalized cloud fat, they are maintaining incredibly robust margins on the hardware they rent out.
Okay, Section 3, financials, margins, and ratios. Let's see how this crazy high-margin engine actually translates into hyper-growth data, because the scaling here is some of the most aggressive we've ever seen in the modern tech landscape. Their revenue trajectory is, honestly, almost vertical. We are talking about a leap from $229 million in 2023 up to $1.9 billion in 2024, and then rocketing to a projected $5.1 billion by 2025. That is the kind of explosive growth rate that forces the entire industry to stop and pay attention.
But, as we all know, growth like this is never free. Looking at their consolidated statements, that massive $5.1 billion revenue is heavily offset by nearly $3 billion in technology and infrastructure expenses. Buying tens of thousands of top-tier GPUs and hooking them up is an intensely capital-heavy game.
So it really comes down to balancing these financial ratios. They generated a very strong $3 billion adjusted EBITDA in 2025, but you have to weigh that against a GAAP net loss of over $1.1 billion. Essentially, they are spending massive amounts of capital today to capture the market of tomorrow. Which leads us perfectly into Section 4, mega backlog and future growth. Despite those on-paper GAAP losses, the fuel for their future looks incredibly potent when we peek at their order books. Check this out. As of March 2026, CoreWeave secured an astonishing $99.4 billion in contracted revenue backlog. Just wrap your head around that scale for a moment. Nearly $100 billion in future revenue is already locked down. This isn't speculative build-it-and-they-will-come capacity, it is already spoken for. And this mega backlog is anchored by absolute tech royalty. We are looking at up to $35.2 billion from Meta alone, over $22 billion from OpenAI, a massive $10 billion commitment from Microsoft, and a brand new $6 billion AI cloud agreement with Wall Street powerhouse Jane Street. It shows that demand extends way past just basic commodity GPU rental and goes deep into their fully integrated AI platform.
Now, to actually deliver on nearly $100 billion in backlog, you need a literal mountain of cash. Over just a 12-month period, CoreWeave raised around $28 billion in combined debt and equity. That includes a massive $8.5 billion facility, which cements their current $23 billion valuation. This unprecedented access to capital gives them the firepower to actually build out the infrastructure these tech giants are demanding.
All right, let's bring it all home with Section 5, the modern investor essence. What does this all mean for us when we step back and look at the whole board? Because we definitely need to address the turbulence in this hypergrowth story. We have to stop and be real about the extreme leverage going on here. Their hypergrowth strategy relies entirely on massive debt financing. To put it in perspective, their debt-to-equity ratio actually exceeded 1,200% in 2024. 1,200%! It is a brilliant financial engine for sure, but they are borrowing aggressively against future contracts. So the leverage risk? It's completely undeniable. On top of that, customer concentration is a very real headwind. Microsoft alone made up roughly 67% of their 2025 revenue. If one massive client like that decides to pivot, that is a huge hit to the system. But the reward side of the equation is that their newer multi-billion-dollar contracts with Meta, OpenAI, and Jane Street are rapidly diversifying that base as we speak.
The time is right to start building your thesis on AI infrastructure, because CoreWeave perfectly encapsulates both the immense, world-changing potential and the very heavy capital risks of this sector. They are quite literally laying down the physical, heavy metal tracks for the entire generative AI revolution. As they continue to pivot toward higher-margin software and managed services ahead of a highly anticipated IPO window, the final question you really have to ask yourself is this: do you have the patience and courage to find your right entry? They've clearly got the technology, the massive backlog, and the capital, but navigating those leverage and concentration risks is going to be the ultimate test. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer today, and as always, keep building your knowledge edge.